Hi Disciples, today we're learning the B section of T for Two and some jazz secrets to help you with your jazz piano playing. The part we're learning today sounds like this. And I'm playing that, I'm sort of arpeggiating the chords because I want to pull out some of the melodic stuff that's happening there because it's kind of interesting. Anyway, we'll review all that stuff, so don't worry. Now, if you're starting out with this video for some reason, right here, you might find it helpful to go back to the first video in this series, and I'll make sure that you can find that through links and whatever. All right. Now, the first thing that I want to point out to you is that I want to talk about form and a little bit of sort of like music theory, I guess, really light. And that is that the first section I showed you, the A section, picture me upon your knee, just T for two, and two for T, just me for you, and you for me alone, is very similar to the B section, but the B section is a major third higher. So it's as if we sort of like transposed or shift keys in the middle. So the first section, the A section, if you remember, was in the key of F. So we had a B flat. And if you look at the key signature again, you'll see that there's still the B flat in there. But you'll notice that we have a lot of sharps that show up in the music now. And that's because it's kind of like we've switched keys to an A. So in the key of A major, we have these notes: A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and back to the A. So the C's, the F's, and the A's are sharp. And you'll notice if you look over the music for the next 8 measures, which is the part we're learning, the B section, you'll see that we actually have all of our F's and G's are sharp, and we have a C sharp in the second to last measure, and that kind of turns back into a C natural. And you'll notice that they put the natural sign in there because they really want to say, oh, by the way, it was sharp before, but it's kind of changing back to something else here. That's like a little hint for the listener. So we have C's and F's and G sharps. We don't have any B's in the melody, otherwise we would see a natural sign probably, unless it was part of the melody for some reason, but we'd see a natural sign to say, hey, those B's aren't flat anymore, remember, because we're kind of like in a different key. All right, so thinking in the key of A major now, we're going to start, I'd like to start sort of similar to the last one by playing and singing the melody together. So I'm going to play, and you can just read along and sing the melody. Try to figure it out by ear, all right? So it's a tiny bit different, but similar to the last melody. Nobody near us to see us or hear us, no friends or relations or weekend vacations. We won't have it known, dear, that we have a telephone, dear. And yeah, so if you followed along with the first tutorial, you'll recognize that there's some patterns. Again, with almost all of the music that I teach and play, I'm always looking for patterns because it makes it easier to remember and easier to play and expand. All right, so try to see if you can notice the rhythmic pattern first. So we've got 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and so I'm kind of throwing in the and there quietly. So you want to think about breaking each measure into 8 little pieces, and you're thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So you might try saying that along with me, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Don't forget the and after the 4, and clap along with me where the notes are. So like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so try to count out loud, and that's important. Count out loud and clap on the rhythm. All right, and if you sort of start to get the hang of the melody, you can count the notes, and so you sing the notes, but you count the rhythm. So it'd be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it kind of helps you, study in a more in-depth way. All right, so try and see if you can play the melody with your hands. So we're going to start with an A here, and it's going to be A, F sharp, G, G, F sharp, A. And you'll notice that little pattern. So these three notes, the A, the G sharp, and the F sharp, you have that same pattern from before. Top, except you have sort of an extra top. Top, top, bottom, middle, middle, bottom, top, top, bottom, middle, middle, bottom. This is where the bottom sort of shifts down to an E. So middle, bottom, then you go back to this G, it kind of becomes your top. Middle, bottom, top, top, bottom, middle. Now the three notes that you're working for this pattern are an E, an F sharp, and a G. So from the third measure that I'm showing here, friends or relations. So friends, top, top, bottom, middle, middle, bottom, top, top, bottom, middle, middle, bottom. Back up to that original top. Top, top, bottom, middle, middle, bottom, top, top, bottom, middle, low, high. Bring it down a half a step. So similar to that first part, you had that low, high, and that's an E to a C sharp. And then that last note in that last measure is just a half step lower. That's C natural. Low, high, bring it down. Now I'm teaching it to you top, top, bottom, middle, middle, bottom, top, because I want you to see that there's really just a pattern here. It's three notes that have this sort of relationship, and then it shifts down, and then the little ending sequence there. Hopefully that helps simplify things for you. All right, and hopefully that sounds familiar. Let's talk about the chords now. So we're going to learn with the inversions that I show you, so the melody comes out more easily in the right hand if you want to start playing that. But I actually want to talk about jazz comping. So this is the point of this video, really, is to talk about comping. So when you play jazz music, you're often playing with a bass player and a drum player and a drummer. And the bass player is sort of interesting to us because they tend to play the roots of the chords and the five of the chords. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, I'm going to try and break it down for you. So if we look at the first chord, we see a B minor 7. So a B minor 7 is like kind of like you think about a B minor triad with a dominant 7. So it's these chords: B, D, F sharp, and A. That's a B minor 7. Now, when I'm saying the one of the chord or the root of the chord, I'm talking about the B, this part of the chord. And when I say the 3 of the chord, I mean sort of like the third scale degree in the third scale degree in the key of B. In the key of B minor in this case. So the 3 is here. The 5 is up here. This F sharp is the 5. So a B major chord is like this: 1, 3, 5. In the minor, the 3 is flat, and the 5 is right here. It's this F sharp, and here's the 7 of the chord. So if you can sort of start to see chords in terms of their numbers, sort of like where the notes fall relative to each other: 1, 3, 5, 7. 1 minor 3, 5, 7. Then this part will make more sense because the bass player often plays the 1s and the 5s of the chords. So in that first chord, it's going to be a B and an F sharp. So to get really good bass lines, you're going to play a lot of 1s, a lot of 5s, and the last little tip is to play half steps that are targeting half steps that precede your target note. So if I want to play this note, I might play a half step that's nearby. And if I know I'm going to go up to the 5, those little half steps that sort of slide you into the target notes gives the bass player some ability to have a little more color, something more interesting for their walking bass line. So think about an upright bass playing these parts. So what I actually want to do here is, instead of showing you the chords right away, if you look over the chord changes, you've got B minor, E7, B minor, E7. So that's those first 4 chords there, the first 2 measures, B minor to an E7, and it repeats. So when the piano player is playing the chords, you kind of want to get out of the way of the bass player, because you don't want to be doubling up notes. You want to really have the bass player shine through the mix, so you hear that nice woody bass sound, and it has a richer sound to it. So if I know that the bass player plays a lot of 1s and 5s, 1s and 5s, I'm going to play a lot of 3s and 7s from the chord. In this case, it's the minor third, but I know that my chord looks like this, so I'm going to stay away from the 1s and the 5s. Alright, so for the first chord, I might play a D and an A, because I know the bass player is going to be playing, they're going to be playing a lot of 1s and 5s, alright? For the next chord, the next chord is an E7, so let me show you what an E7 looks like first, and we'll talk about how to apply it to what I'm showing you. So you've got an E, a G sharp, a B, and a D. Now, what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to move the D an octave lower. It's still an E7, it's just an inversion, all right? And I'm going to kind of rewind a little bit. So remember I said that you want the 3s and the 7s. So in the key when I'm looking at this E7 chord, I'll go back to the root inversion here. The 1 and the 5 is the E and the B, so I don't want to play those. What I want to play is this G sharp and the D. And remember, I moved that D an octave lower, so it's actually here. So I know that's like a lot of moving around, but it's really 2 notes, and I'm going to simplify it by just showing you what those notes are for the first few. So when I played that B minor 7, my 2 notes were a D and an A. That's the 3 and the 7 of the B minor 7 chord. For the E7 chord, all I have to do is move this A down a half step to a G sharp. And that's it. So I'm only playing 2 notes now because I know the bass player is going to pick everything else up. So what I'm going to do now is show you in my left hand something that what the bass player might be playing. And you can definitely play this with your left hand if you don't expect to be playing with a bass player, but it'll give you a nice jazzy sort of a feel on the piano. So I'm going to play just the roots for now. B, E, and then you repeat that for the first, for the next measure. B, E. And you'll hear that with this nice sort of spaced out chord, it's got already something going on here. And I started throwing in some extra stuff. So let me show you what a bass player might play. So I actually wrote this little bass part for the whole section that I'm going to show you here. And I'm going to try and I'll move through it a little bit quickly because I hope that you'll grasp the basic concepts and not that you necessarily are going to play the bass part that I'm showing you here. But a bass player playing a lot of 1s and 5s and the half steps might play something like this. I'm going to go slow. B, or the 1 of the B chord. E, or the 1 of the E7 chord. B, F sharp, E, or like 1, 5, 1 of the E chord. Alright, so I'm going to play a lot of 1s and 5s, and I'm going to just move through and play it for you now. Alright, so here, starting from the beginning. So that hopefully sort of sounds like a walking bass line. It has that sort of quality to it. It wasn't exactly the same time twice through, but that's okay. I have the basic idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play these little 3-7 chords, these little 2-note chords here, while I play a bass line here so you can hear it all together, and then we'll go back, all right? So here's both of those things together. Really slow. So it's starting to sound kind of jazzy. I played that as slow so you could hopefully follow along a little bit better. But let me show you what the right hand is going to be playing, and then I'm going to give you a challenge to end this video. All right, so you've got the D and the A here for your B minor 7 chord. In your left hand, if you'd like to, you can play the root. All right. Then, if you're going to keep playing the roots with your left hand, so whatever the chord, the big letter of the chord is, that's what your left hand is going to play. So B is going to move to an E, while your right hand plays a D and a G sharp, and then you're going to just kind of like repeat that again. So back to the first 2. And I'm doing a little bass move here to get to this A major 7. So your left hand's going to play an A, while your right hand, your pinky stays where it is, and your 2 finger drops down to a C sharp. And what I'm doing here is I'm still playing the 3 and the 7 of an A major 7 chord, because here's the 5. All right, so there's your A major 7. Now for a D7, your left hand's going to come up to a D, and this right hand's going to slide down. You're going to play a C with your, you can play with your 2 finger if you want, and an F sharp. All right. Now your right hand is going to continue sliding down, and actually your left hand is going to continue sliding down too, sort of this walk down. So you've got a C sharp minor 7. So you play a C sharp with your left hand, a B, and an E in your right hand. That's your C sharp minor 7 with those 3 7 chords there. And you can just going to continue on down. You're going to move to a C in the left hand, and an A and a D sharp in your right hand, or a E flat. And then you're back to the beginning part. So you move to a B here and back up to this D and A. So you've got those first 4 chords. We'll just do the same thing. We're here. And then the A major 7 is the same. The D comes down to a C sharp. Now here's this little different ending here. Slightly, a little bit different than the first section. You have a G minor 7. So you're going to move your left hand down to a G. You're going to play a B flat and an F in your right hand. And then when your left hand comes up to a C for that C7, you're just going to bring your left hand up to a C, and you're going to bring your pinky down to an E. And now you're playing the 3 and the 7 of a C7 chord. All right? So that's the basic idea. Let me show you one more time what it'll sound like all together, and I'll try and talk you through a little bit. B minor 7 to the E7, and I'm keeping the 5s out of things here. I might throw it in with the left hand just for fun here. Here's the 5. All right. Half step that walks into the target note, which is an A for the bass hand. A major, D7. So everything sort of slides, and then everything's going to keep continuing down for the C sharp minor 7. And I've taken the 5 out. We're going to keep on walking down, just sort of sliding down to the C diminished 7. We have a B minor 7, so that's just like the beginning part. An E7, B minor 7. Throw the 5 back in. Back to the E7. Do the half step to the A major 7, major 7. And then we're going to walk down. There we have a G minor 7, so this is the G in the left hand. There's the 5. And then 1, 1. Cool. So that's it. Try to play it smooth, and I'll give you this extra challenge. Try to write a bass part, giving those tips that I taught you about basses, where they always play the 1 and the 5 of the chord, and the half steps that lead into those target notes, and then try to play the bass hand with your left hand and the right hand with just the 3s and the 7s of the chords, if you know enough theory, if that seems possible to you.